Hello.
Greetings, how are you?
I am doing very well. How are you today?
I cannot complain.
Are we still in that weird space where we're completely out of sync with the time zones between us two?
So I'm in a time zone that doesn't do daylight saving, so nothing really changes for me. It's just, it's 8 a.m. in Brisbane.
Okay.
Sydney is about to transition out of daylight saving this
Okay.
weekend. So probably the answer is yes for Sydney.
I used to work with a bunch of guys from Sydney and a guy from Tasmania and New Zealand. So we always had this weird couple of weeks where all the meetings were messed up.
I hate daylight. I hate the daylight saving transitions, right? Like I don't mind the idea of daylight saving time. It's the transitions that suck.
Agreed. I put a link to the agenda in the Zoom chat. We'll give it another minute or so to see if anybody else arrives.
So what do I have to do? I have to make myself black.
Click on the little A next to the bold, underlined, italicized, and change the color. So I think I can highlight that and change my color to
like that. So it was a bit of a spicy voting conversation on OpenVex, Joanne.
I could confirm there was a vote, and that's about all I will commit to publicly to the YouTube channel.
The chilling effect of everybody getting to pick over your conversations after the fact.
It was something exciting I got to do. If we ever get to meet in person one day, I will be glad to share an adult beverage and talk more about it.
I'm all for conversations shared over adult beverages.
All right. Is anyone interested in helping us with notes today?
I'm happy to volunteer as tribute.
Awesome. And anyone is allowed to type. It's easy to have that.
I will not be offended if someone else joins me in typing.
I was very surprised about 6 months ago. I had somebody pop into one of our calls first time and they said, "Oh, I was reading all the notes and I was watching the videos." I'm like, really? People do that? So there is a lot of utility in looking at this stuff.
Long time listener, first time caller.
Exactly. Do we have anybody new here that wanted to introduce themselves to our little merry band?
Assumes a lot that we were married, that we were happy.
Hey, Jonathan.
Hello.
All right. As Andrew alluded to, there was a very exciting vote that the working group held, and the majority of the eligible members endorsed the idea of us adopting the OpenVex spec, tools, and evangelism efforts as part of our work underneath the Vulnerability Disclosure Working Group. So I am in 14 hours, I'm closing out the doodle poll. So you will eventually see a recurring VEX call as part of the OpenSSF's calendar. And there'll be another meeting you can watch and or notes you can follow as desired. So very soon, hopefully we'll be collaborating. I'm already involved with the US government's CISA, VEX, and SBOM efforts. So we're just going to try to help promote the use of VEX and kind of see if we can get upstream maintainers to embrace the idea, to at least be able to issue that so that downstream, all downstream consumers can benefit from that information and use that as part of their own risk assessments. And we have the OpenVex tool set that we will be expanding upon as an option for people to follow. Any questions about that? All right, and we plan on working with, I don't even know who owns it, Oasis, with the CSAF standard. We plan on reaching out to SPDX and Cyclone DX just to ensure that everybody's at least open to the idea of using VEX as a way to help quickly share information about the state of vulnerability. All right, it looks like Jonathan wanted to talk next.
Did I?
You did.
Did I
About
put
your
something in the
policy.
document?
About your security policy. Oh, no, so Luigi wanted to talk about the security policy and he's not here.
Happy to talk.
I talked, do you want to give everybody just an update on your auto fix work?
Yes, the auto fix policy or the wait. Okay,
I'll talk about Luigi's thing. You talk about auto fix.
Well, hang on. First off, the there's another document which is the vulnerability disclosure policy for outgoing reports. It is a document describing how Alpha Omega and any other entity operating within the OpenSSF will disclose security vulnerabilities to outside vendors. That document is currently been passed over to the TAC and LF Legal for review. It is not clear to me how to get something on the TAC's calendar. Besides, like I sent a Slack message and they said, or I've gotten no response, and I put it in their calendar. Yes, hi.
You log on to the Google document and there's a section at the top about future meeting items and you type your meeting item in there. It's
yes,
super complex.
but it says short items.
Go, just put it on the agenda. It's fine. And put your name so this way knows who
All
to
right,
talk to when
okay.
it comes up.
Uh,
It's super easy.
it's also Jonathan with an A. Thank you. No, it's all good. Well, okay. I made a comment about that in the TAC Slack working group channel. That it was like, this is described as a place for short things. Where do you get things on people's calendars so they review it before the meeting?
You send a mail with the relevant information to the TAC list saying, I'd like
Okay.
you, this is a pre-read.
Okay. I saw your
Did I tell you that?
most recent email to the TAC is please thank you for all your reviews and has no responses from February.
Oh.
You sent
That's all right. Tuesday or Monday, there could be a whole new TAC. We'll see.
Very fair. All right. So that's that. The auto fix meetings are still occurring every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern. We basically had a bunch of conversations about some standards and some things about what we wanted to do or how much we wanted to restrict people from contributing. Like, do we want to force people who are doing these campaigns to try to do private disclosure? And the decision was yes, because GitHub is offering an API for doing this. We should try to encourage people who are doing these campaigns against services like GitHub that are offering APIs for this stuff to use them. So we're going to try to we're going to put in a flow that says, all right, if your platform supports a way of doing private disclosure via an API, here's the set of steps you should do. Yes. In other news, GitHub now supports an API for getting information from private vulnerability disclosure, from GHSAs. There was no API beforehand. These are repository disclosures, not the ones that are published, but the ones that are pre-published. So there's now an API for getting that information. And there's now an API for updating that information and adding webhooks, stuff like that. So you can get, and so I'm currently writing the Pi GitHub bindings for that API. So there will actually be a library supporting it. That is linked, the release notes are linked in the Slack channel for both the vulnerability disclosure and the SIG and AO.
Awesome.
So,
Any questions for Jonathan about the AutoFX items? All right. And we had another foundation member, Luigi, who thought it'd be a great idea if all of our GitHub repositories had a published security policy, a security MD. And so he's come to the Vulnerability Disclosure Working Group. We're going to collaborate with him. And once we get a generic policy together for the foundation, we're going to work with the TAC and OpenSSF staff to get that rolled out to all OpenSSF projects. So we're kind of excited about that, to have a kind of dog fooding, so to speak. We recommend it as part of our CVD guide. So we're actually going to do it.
So what's the status of that proposal at the moment?
Right now, he just has a document that kind of outlines what he's looking for. The link is there.
Yep.
And we have not taken any steps yet. So if you had feedback on what you think the policy should contain or address, feel free to drop notes in that document. And then you also can talk to us on the Slack channel or the mailing list if you wanted to have more of a long-running dialogue. Which I'm pretty sure Luigi's in Europe, so it'll be asynchronous. All right. And then the item I had is I was, since Oliver and Andrew here are both representing the OSV project, and you're part of our working group, what can we do to get you guys better integrated? What can the working group do to help you? What types of things do you all need to be successful?
One thing that immediately comes to mind is we are planning a little blog post just explaining OSV and the progress and where we hope to take it. So we have a draft almost ready, and we'll probably see something coming your way for approval at some point.
Would you like that to go out in the OpenSSF blog, or is this something?
Yes, the OpenSSF blog.
Perfect. Yeah. Shoot that over. I can work with Jennifer Bly on the marketing team, and she'll get that out there. We'll do an inform to the TAC. We'll share it to the TAC first to say, hey, this is something we're doing. Do you have any feels? And then Jennifer will push the button and out it'll go.
Sounds good. Well, that sounds very simple. Thanks for your help there.
Very welcome. Do you want to maybe give us an update on what you all have been working on, and maybe what's your next major milestones or things you wanted to achieve outside of the blog?
Yeah, I can talk a bit about that as well. So we have a few things going on. So we've always been trying to advocate for more databases to adopt OSV as a format. We've been making slow but steady progress with this over the past few years. Most recently, Rocky Linux agreed to start using the OSV format, so now they actually natively support OSV for exporting their advisories. We have a pretty decent coverage of all language ecosystems, but where we're lacking a lot is Linux distribution support. So most Linux distros have their own way of communicating about advisories. We really like a more uniform way that open source users can easily use for that. I don't know if this is something that the OpenSSF can potentially help with in terms of advocating or communicating with OpenSSF. The other angle here is we also really want to engage with the CVE and the MVD, or the CVE and the MVD folks to help out where we can with improving processes, making sure that data quality starts, at the source. Everybody still uses CVEs, but the problem is, there's a lot of bad data, unfortunately, coming from CVE and MVD, and it just makes it hard for everybody to triage things. So Andrew's been having a bit of an ongoing dialogue with some of these folks, but yeah, it's a slow-moving thing, and I wonder if this, having this come from OpenSSF could also potentially help give more weight to these conversations as well.
I can talk more, but I can't participate in a conversation and take notes simultaneously. I'm not that good. I'm sorry. So
Yeah, I can take over for a bit. Yeah.
I will switch out of note-taking mode and switch into participating in the conversation mode. Yeah, I've been predominantly working on trying to get select CVEs into OSV, because we notably C and C++ software, because we don't have an ecosystem for that. So the only way we're going to get that stuff is via CVEs. And yeah, CVE is fun. So yeah, I've been having some ongoing dialogue with the NVD folks about the state of things. I, up until having this task, haven't been that familiar with the whole sausage making machine. And so I've been getting familiar with it, and that led me to the CV program itself. So I've been participating in the automation working group and quality working group meetings, mostly as a fly on the wall at this stage, just to sort of, as I said, understand the landscape. The CV program itself is in an interesting space at the moment, because they are literally switching over to the CV 5.0 schema. As of like yesterday, they went into what they call hard deploy for that, which means they now spit out stuff in that format as well as accepted in that format. That's not super interesting, because my conversion work is sourcing things from the National Vulnerabilities Database, which is yet to do anything with the CV 5.0 schema, and may not even from most recent conversations, which was slightly interesting. But yeah, you know, ongoing conversations with everybody involved with these things. But yeah, like I've even found that having conversations about data quality is interesting, because data quality means different things to different people. I'm mostly focused on quality in the aggregate, and therefore consistency across records, whereas oftentimes other folks are interested in, you know, how do they make sure that given CNAs are actually just emitting individual records that are actionable and of a certain standard. So yeah, even data quality conversations get interesting.
Yeah, I'll add kind of more broadly that we really want to advocate for a more kind of open model for dealing with contributing to vulnerability databases. So GitHub, for instance, has their entire security advisory database available in the OSV format, but then anybody can come in and submit pull requests to fix up any things that might have been wrong, or to submit general improvements, or even new advisories to the UI. So it's just a nice way to open up the kind of process for contributing to vulnerability databases in general. And I think it benefits everybody. It's a much more sustainable model for maintaining accurate advisories in open source. And yeah, we're hoping to generalize this and potentially also convince other big players, like, you know, even CV, NVD. Can people just directly propose improvements to them through an open process that gets reviewed, hopefully very streamlined, and in a way that kind of reduces the burden for everybody? Because there's a lot of interest from the downstream consumers of these entries for them to be high quality, right? So rather than everybody trying to triage the same vulnerability and finding out that it's wrong in some way, hopefully we can kind of reduce duplicate effort through building these better communication channels.
So 3 areas where I think the working group and the foundation can help. First off, you mentioned the distros. 2 of the big 3 are members of the foundation. I personally know the big 3 PCERT teams. So this is something we very definitely can help kind of broker those conversations between those folks. The distros is bigger than just the big 3, but we can definitely start to help broker that communication. So
what are those big 3? Sorry.
SUSE, Canonical, and Red Hat. Those are the primary drivers behind the distros. And then there's Google and AWS and Apple, and there's a bunch of other smaller players. But really, it's those 3 main commercial distros that represent 90% of usage of Linux in the cloud. So you converse with them and get their agreement, or at least have a conversation that can be very influential with the rest of that list. So again, I'm glad to help broker that conversation whenever you want. Actually, Marcus Messner, who's like the head or the technical lead for the SUSE AP cert, he's a member of this working group. Good dude. Red Hat has good Australia coverage, so that'd be really easy to broker a real-time conversation. SUSE is Germany, sorry, and Canonical, I think, England is where they have a bunch of folks. UK,
they're pretty global.
yeah. But the folks I used to talk to were in the UK. But yeah, we can definitely help start and then figure out. I don't know if they have like a forum where that group talks periodically outside of the mailing list, but glad to help start that conversation with them. So get me some details of kind of what you'd like to talk about, and I'll figure out how we can address that.
Well, the nice thing is that we are getting a little bit of organic snowball effect. So we added Alpine Linux and Debian, so we're doing our own sort of conversion of their vulnerability disclosures. Organically, Ubuntu's come out of the woodwork saying, "Oh, we should add this," and we're like, "Yes, you should. That'd be great." And so I just dropped in the notes an issue where they've already sort of reached out to us.
Awesome.
Rocky Linux, I think we reached out to them and they got very enthusiastic as a result. So
yeah, that was surprisingly easy.
Yeah, that was right. I can't exactly remember how that all came about, but I think I was involved.
They're new and small, and they don't have a dedicated team, so that is a big boost for them to have.
Yeah. So we're going to get to a tipping point here of network effects where that's seen as where it's all happening. But we want to try and avoid being in a situation where we're hosting and doing the conversion work, because then it's dependent on us, right? Yeah. As opposed to them just doing it natively. So that's definitely our preference, is that and we're not having to prop.
Glad to help facilitate some of those conversations to see if we can get this more organic. You guys have like GitHub advisories is a great example of that integration.
Yeah.
There aren't a lot of bigger platforms than that.
Right.
And then, so the second point, the CVE board, they actually have been on again, off again participants with the working group. I personally know a lot of the board members. I work with some of the board members at my employer. So again, if you're interested in having a sit-down conversation with them about how we might be able to get some more openness and transparency and be able to get that kind of community feedback into their processes, again, I'm glad to help facilitate. They historically have been very open to talking to the OpenSSF, so I don't think that'd be a problem. It's just a matter of it's a scheduling challenge.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's fun time zone wise at the moment. Like the AWG and QWG meetings are at like 6 a.m. my time. I just got up this morning for a QWG one. But I think it's valuable being in the room for those, right? So I'm happy to do it.
Well, and I'm even glad to invite him to a call like this, saying, "Hey, if we could find a time that's agreeable for all parties, and this is outside of my normal work hours, but I'm glad to do it once a month. It's not that big a deal." And they have the same attitude. Yeah.
That'd be cool. I get the impression that they're a little bit busy right now with the CVE 5.0 transition, so they're probably a bit preoccupied with that. I also want to go and consume. They just had a annual summit thingy, 2-day summit thingy, which I believe is going to be recorded. So I want to go and consume that and sort of get a bit more state on things before I get too up in their business about how things are behaving and how they could behave or whatnot. So yeah, I'm still, as I said, I'm still kind of feeling out the landscape and understanding.
Yep.
You know, I don't want to rock up and go, hi, I'm new here, and you know everything's wrong, and you should do it this way. That's not a good way to win friends and influence people. So, but yeah, would definitely appreciate any
Yeah, very glad.
doors you can open with the appropriate people at the appropriate levels.
Yeah, very glad to do that, to broker that conversation. And again, they're very agreeable. They're interested in changing and adapting, and I think it's a win for everybody if we can have a simple way for a large swath of open source to be able to consume and share this information back. That makes it better for everybody.
Agreed. Very cool.
And then for the last point, kind of evangelizing, my friend Madison from GitHub and I are doing a presentation at the North America Summit where we're talking about CVD. So very short term, if you're interested, if you want to give me a couple slides, we can get that inserted into our conversation there. But then long term, think about, my friend Gunnar used to call it a walking around deck. Think about, let's create some kind of presentation that explains the project and the benefits and kind of asks for what we need. Like we're looking for contributors or people to start adopting. And we have a lot of different forums. We have the Open Source European Summit is coming up. And that'll be, the call for papers ends for that in May, and that'll be early fall. And then they'll also do another one in Asia. I think it's probably going to be in Tokyo again. But again, that's not next door, but is closer than flying to DC. So that's another possibility, is to get something put together and present there as well. And I'm glad to help facilitate.
That's really
that.
cool.
Yeah.
I would love to get ramped up and get on the speaking circuit. It's just a case of time, right?
Yeah, no, I understand.
Being able to deputize some folks in other time zones sounds like a great way to scale things, right? So a general pitch deck, elevated pitch deck for what is OSV and why it's important sounds like a really cool thing to make. So the Open Source North America, that's in May, right?
That is in May. So I am compiling the slides right now. So if you can give me like a slide or two in the next couple of weeks, great. I'll add it in, because I'm going to be talking about the CVD guides and just the working group in general. So easy enough to slide that in. And then another option is, part of my work with the education SIG is we've proposed that the foundation makes a podcast. And if that happens, another evangelism outlet would be to have you guys on that podcast talking about OSV, and that'll go out through the foundation channels and to all the different video and audio podcasting outlets. That's another potential in the future for us to kind of get the word out.
That's super cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We saw
Interesting.
quite a spike in interest. Like we put out a Google security blog post about OSV Scanner. Was it late last year or was it early this year? I've lost track of time.
December, yeah.
Yeah, it was, and that went kind of nuts. Like we had a separate repo for OSV Scanner, and it's like star and fork count went, and so that was pretty cool.
I have to run. I'll talk to you guys later.
See you, Jonathan.
Bye.
Yeah. So
And as you guys have any big announcements, mail me, Slack me. We can, or stage it in the agenda, like for sub project updates, saying, hey, we've got a new release coming out. We're releasing a new tool. We have an RFC out for a new feature, whatever you guys are thinking about. We can definitely use the working group there as well.
Awesome.
So a lot of different ways we can get the word out and start to educating people on the usefulness of this project.
That is very, very cool. So I think in the short term, we need to try and get you a couple of slides relatively quickly to add into your deck. And what you would like to say about.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be anything fancy, but if you just want to kind of describe the goals and mission, if you give me a link to any relevant blogs, or if you have a repo or a tool you want somebody to look at.
Yep.
Easy enough.
I'm very happy to do that.
Yeah.
So Chris or other Andrew, do you have any questions or comments about what we've been talking about?
Not particularly. I'm happy being a 10x lurker over here.
No worries. No worries at all. All right. Do we have any other items? Hi, Andrew.
Hi, I'm just a grad student who's interested in fuzzing stuff. So
Cool.
I thought I'd pop by and see what's up.
Nice. We don't do fuzzing in this group. My friend Josh Bressers over in the tooling working group, they actually have a project, OSS Fuzz, that may be more pertinent to that.
Yeah, actually, like I also work on OSS Fuzz. So
Oh, look at that!
We're on the channel if you want to talk about fuzzing.
Look at that. We made a connection. So talk to
Cool.
Oliver.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I'm up for different connections for stuff. There's one Discord group that's pretty active that I joined, which is great, but which is I think where I saw some Google Calendar with a whole bunch of stuff on it. So that I thought I'd pop by for something, but I won't take your guys' time. But if you want to pass any resources, that'd be great.
Are you on the Foundation Slack at all? Oh.
No.
Do you want to leave us an email or a contact? We can shoot you over what we've got, what we can find.
Yeah, for sure. There's my school email in the chat.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much.
Hey, anytime. No, these meetings are open for anybody. You know, we're just trying to further the cause of security. And while I can't help you with fuzzing, my friend Oliver can. But do we have any additional questions or topics we want to talk about today? All right. Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate your time and attention today. I'm looking forward to continuing our relationship and collaborating together. And whenever you're ready to engage with any of those groups, let me know. I'll be glad to start the footwork there. And then Oliver, did you grab Andrew's email out of the Zoom chat?
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thanks, gents. And enjoy the rest of your day. Cheers.
Bye.